Hello and welcome to Previews and Reviews. I'm Amanda and I'm here with Jason Larch, and I'm interviewing him to talk about women empowerment. So what do you have to say about women in movies right now?
Okay, specifically for movies, we were talking about before this show, it seems like a lot of the lead roles tend to be male driven, but most of the shows around there have a female in some capacity, and as you go from genre to genre, romantic comedies and movies geared more towards a women audience tend to have stronger women in those types of roles. But what could be driving the overall, just seeing a lack of women in the industry, is a lot of the behind the scenes off-camera crew activities, very male-driven, and then the writers who are really dictating who are the lead characters, where are they coming from, tend to be very male-driven, as with the financiers, the executive producers. And that can almost have more of a big impact on the role that women play in movies and what you end up seeing on the big screen.
Yeah.
Versus, I think there's a lot of actresses out there.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Yeah, it's just, do you have the writers and the financiers who are putting together procedures to really get them in front of the public? And when you do, you look at movies like Bridesmaids, they tend to kill it at the box office.
Yeah.
So it seems like the general public likes it, but the system itself sometimes isn't like putting them in the platform to really...
Yeah, the storyline's not going for what's best.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So do you have any favorite movies that tend to have a strong female lead that you enjoy?
So off the top of my head, Bridesmaids is the first one. When you look at Judd Apatow, he's a funny guy, and his movies tend to do real well. And Bridesmaid doubled almost the box office of any of his other hits, and it was women written, women starring in it, really out there promoting it. So that's probably the one that comes first to mind as a good example.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And is there anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for having me on the show, and good luck with the rest of the skit.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's it for right now.
Thanks.
Welcome to Previews and Reviews. I'm your host, Amanda Duchek. For our episode today, we are focusing on women empowerment. So whether you're a strong woman who loves having movies and music that makes you feel empowered, or you're a man who loves playing video games with a strong female lead, then this episode is for you. I want to start with explaining that movies that have strong female leads have started to earn more money than in previous years. This was discovered when a test was developed called the Bechdel test. It evaluates whether a movie has female characters with a storyline that focuses on more than just about a man. The three-part criteria for a movie to pass are: it has to have at least 2 women in it who talk to each other about something besides a man. So the top 50 biggest box office movies of 2013 were analyzed, and 36% passed the test. Some of the movies included Mama, The Heat, We're the Millers, and Safe Haven. Now moving on to some other movies. First, I want to discuss the 1996 movie Matilda. It starred Maria Wilson as Matilda and Danny DeVito as her con artist father. The story is about a gifted 6-year-old girl who is born to unsuitable parents, but she then learns she possesses telekinetic powers that she uses to drive her school's evil principal away. The movie was based on the book Matilda, written by British author Ronald Dahl in 1988. The major difference between the book and movie was, in the book, Matilda was actually British, and her teacher, Miss Honey, discovered Matilda's powers very early on. But nonetheless, Matilda showed the strength and courage when dealing with her abusive school principal and her parents. One of my favorite scenes of the movie is when Matilda learns how she uses her powers and she has everything around her flying. This shows how she finds her inner strength and ultimately fuels her telekinetic powers. Overall, Matilda powers through the challenges in her life and didn't hide in the shadows. Another childhood movie we grew up watching that showed women can do anything a man does is Disney's Mulan. Mulan is the girl who didn't wear the makeup and fancy dresses, but instead cut her hair and called herself Ping in order to keep her father from being sent off to war. When Mulan cuts her hair with her father's sword and wears his armor as she leaves home is a very strong moment. During that scene, Mulan chose not to follow society's standards for women, but instead she embraces herself. Throughout the movie, her physical and emotional strength continues to grow as she fights not only for her family, but for her country. This movie was based on a legend from 581 AD China about a young woman named Mulan Hu who took her father's place in the army for 12 years, then gave up the opportunity to become a high-ranking official so she could return home to be with her family. Mulan is one of China's most inspirational women in history that even has legend printed in textbooks. I think this movie and legend can encourage women and men at any age that no person or society can tell you what you can do. Just trust in yourself and you can accomplish your goals. Moving on to a new woman who embodies strength and courage is the girl on fire, Katniss Everdeen. The Hunger Games trilogy focuses on Katniss volunteering as tribute so her younger sister can avoid going into battle, but her strong, unruly attitude towards the capital sets her in motion to become the key figure in the rebellion. Throughout the movies and the books, Katniss focuses on staying alive so she can return home to her mother and sister. Although there is a love triangle with her friend Peeta and her childhood friend Gale, Katniss stays determined to fight for her family, and eventually agreeing to work with the rebellion for what is best for society. The third movie installment, Mockingjay, focuses on Katniss's fight for freedom and from the capital. Also, she is no damsel in distress, because it will be her job to fight to save her family, friends, and country from the capital. Mockingjay Part 1 comes to theaters this November. Finally, to end the movie portion, I want to talk about the United Kingdom's first woman Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. The movie Iron Lady stars Meryl Streep and focuses on Margaret Thatcher's dealing with the death of her husband by reliving her memories from when she was younger. During her years as Prime Minister in 1959, she brought equality to women in Britain and got rid of corruption in the House of Commons. She was also nicknamed the Iron Lady by the Soviets in the 1980s because she warmly welcomed the rise of the reformist Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. This movie is now available on DVD and does a good job in showing how she empowered her belief and values to make a huge difference for her country. Our theme, Women Empowerment, is meant to remind you that everyone has inner strength and you can empower yourself in following your dreams. Well, thanks for watching the movie portion of Previews and Reviews. I'll send you over to Sarah Wheeler.
Thanks, Amanda. In video games, most of the time the protagonist is a strong, muscular, gunslinging male who doesn't play by anyone's rules. But what about the women in video games? Most of the time they're portrayed as weak and hiding behind the strong male lead, or they're just annoying partner characters. I'm looking at you, Princess Peach. When one thinks of video games, they can list off numerous male leads, but have a hard time thinking of strong female protagonists. They aren't as numerous as male protagonists, but they can still kick butt just as hard. The first female protagonist that one usually thinks of is Samus from the Metroid series. Introduced in 1986, Metroid focuses on the power suit-wearing Samus Aran and her adventure of hunting evil space pirates, their leader Ridley, and the parasites called Metroids. Samus is well known as one of the earliest female protagonists in video game history and remains a popular character over a quarter century after her first appearance. She has also been featured in the comic book Captain N, the Game Master, and the popular fighting game Super Smash Bros. While most people recognize her in the famous orange armor, they have a hard time seeing her without the powered exoskeleton. Players also know that the suit can be enhanced and that it has a cannon for an arm, but what they might not know is that without the suit, she is just as strong. Zero Suit Samus, as people call Samus without the suit, comes in at a muscular 6'3" and 198 pounds. She's not a dainty little princess that needs a prince to rescue her. Another female video game character that has made its way into today's episode is, of course, Lara Croft from the famous Tomb Raider series. In this series, the player controls the archaeologist Lara Croft in search of the 3 mysterious Scion artifacts across the world. The object of the game is to guide her through a series of tombs and other locations in search of these artifacts. On the way, she must kill dangerous animals and other creatures while collecting objects and solving puzzles to gain access to an ultimate prize. While gunplay is the focus of most games, Tomb Raider focuses on solving puzzles and performing trick jumps in order to complete each level. In addition to having 4 other titles bearing the same Tomb Raider name, the franchise was also made into a movie in 2001 called Lara Croft Tomb Raider. It was directed by Simon West and starred Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft with Jon Voight, Ian Glenn, and Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, as you may know, plays James Bond in Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and Skyfall, and Ian Glenn is also famous for playing Ser Jorah Mormont on the popular series Game of Thrones. Did you know that Demi Moore was also considered for the role of Lara Croft with Angelina? Could you imagine that? I think the movie would have been different if they went with her, but that's just me. The last female character that I wanted to talk to you about tonight is none other than Yuna from the Final Fantasy series. She was first introduced as a female protagonist and one of the main playable characters in Final Fantasy X. Yuna appears as a summoner embarking on a journey to defeat the world-threatening monster Sin, alongside her companions, including the male protagonist Tidus. Yuna appears in Final Fantasy X2, where she is the main protagonist searching to find Tidus, who disappeared 2 years before the adventure begins. Yuna also has made a small appearance in Kingdom Hearts and Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy. She is a popular female character amongst cosplayers, and you can find many tutorials on how to make both her old and new costumes as well. You can also find patterns on how to make her props. Let's switch over to the world of TV, shall we? With its strong ratings, American Horror Story created a new season in October of 2013 that featured a coven of witches. The season primarily follows a coven of Salem descendants who reside within a boarding school called Ms. Robichaud's Academy in New Orleans, Louisiana. The academy is run by headmistress Cornelia Fox, who has always lived in the shadow of her mother, Fiona Good. Fiona is the coven's supreme, a witch born every generation who embodies countless gifts and magical abilities, namely the 7 wonders of the witchcraft world. Danger lurks inside the Academy's past due to the mysterious butler Spalding and his relationship with Fiona. The entire coven is assessed and evaluated by the Council of Witchcraft, which includes Fiona's old rival and Cordelia's mother figure, Myrtle Snow. The show has a mostly female cast with only a handful of male characters. The young witches of the coven are battling each other to find out who will be the next supreme. If you haven't watched American Horror Story, you should watch it and see the magic, mayhem, and voodoo come to life. The last TV show that I want to share with you for our Women Empowerment episode is a TNT television series called Rizzoli and Isles. On its 5th season, starting June 17th of this year, it features Angie Harmon as police detective Jane Rizzoli and Sasha Alexander as medical examiner Dr. Mara Isles. The show is based on the Rizzoli and Isles series of novels by Tess Gerritsen. The series' backstory is inspired by the novel The Apprentice, The Surgeon. Boston detective Jane Rizzoli was investigating a serial killer named Charles Hoyt sometime before the series began. Hoyt, who was banned from medical school, uses vast medical knowledge to systematically torture and kill people, usually choosing couples so that he can induce the most fear into his victims. Rizzoli is able to find Hoyt's location as she is searching for him. She is hit in the back of the head and knocked unconscious. She is pinned to the floor by scalpels, and as Rizzoli is waking up, we see Hoyt preparing to cut her throat. Vince Corsack, Rizzoli's partner, locates Rizzoli and saves her by shooting Hoyt before he can slit her throat. Rizzoli, reasoning that Corsack would never trust her as his partner after seeing her so vulnerable, applies for a new partner. The show has 2 female leads whose characters have opposite personalities. They somehow manage to work together despite this. I highly doubt that this would really happen in the girl world of today. Well, that's all for me in this month's episode of Previews and Reviews. Now I'll turn it over to Claire so she can guide you into the musical world of female groups who rock. And that's all for me. And as always, you stay classy.
Okay, so I'm here with Mike Fraskovich, and we're going to be talking about music with women. And so, Mike, are there any female-fronted bands or female artists that you are interested in?
There are 2 in particular. Kendall Winter is a banjo player from Arkansas who's actually signed to a little record label in Olympia, Washington. And she released her first album in 2012 or 13, I think. And it's just a really fun little record. It's 10 songs, but very exciting stuff. And she did it entirely by herself. She had free reign over the whole project. So it was exciting to read about. And then there's another band called Slothrust who's currently blossoming. They just played the South by Southwest Music Festival. And they're from New York City. And I saw them live actually at a pub at Colgate University 2 years ago. And just check in from time to time, and they're on tour right now playing on Saturday.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What do you like about Slothrust?
Well, the lead singer, Leah Wellbaum, has just got this really punchy, in-your-face, rusty vocals that are super cool. especially for like a woman to be doing that. It kind of busts down those gender
Yeah.
roles a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
They just released their first album, Of Course You Do, back in February. So very exciting stuff.
You recommend it?
I do.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Claire.
And that was our interview with Michael Praskovich.
Hello, gals and guys. It's Claire Mulholland here, your woman of musical wisdom. This is a very special episode, especially for our female viewers. I'll be telling you about the female-fronted bands that will not only empower you, but rock your socks off. My first band is a staple for the classic rock fandom. I recently mentioned them in the Christmas episode as well. The Runaways are an all-woman rock band from the 1970s based out of LA. They have been extremely influential in the world of rock and roll and served as great role models on how us women can stand up for ourselves, speak our minds, and be a symbol of strength. The band was originally founded by drummer Sandy West and one of the more famous members, Joan Jett. They eventually recorded Lita Ford on lead guitar and Jackie Fox on bass. Their famous lead singer, Cherie Currie, was discovered in a nightclub when she was only at the age of 15. Their show, Live in Japan, has some of their best performances, most notably Cherry Bomb, I Want to Be Where the Boys Are, and their cover of the Velvet Underground's Rock and Roll, which all could be heard on the live album. But it's not only the powerful songs and lyrics that make the Runaways so influential, but their bold and brass stage presence. Watching Live in Japan is a must for new fans of the Runaways. The Runaways are the perfect band for all you girls out there who need to feel empowered or need a musical role model to start a cool all-girl rock band. But this band was also influential to many female artists who have become important and legendary themselves. One of these very famous artists is Courtney Love. She founded the band Hole in 1989 with guitarist Eric Erlandson. As the lyricist and singer, she stood as a powerful model of female strength and attitude. Her songs usually have feminist themes and incorporate feminine prose with a heavy, hard edge. Add that to her powerful stage presence and attitude, she becomes a controversial yet important figure in music history. Recently, she has been recording new songs, writing her autobiography, doing Google Hangouts with fans, and finding missing Malaysian planes? Well, my next band is a more recent group, the Dum Dum Girls. They are an all-girl rock band formed in 2008. The name is a reference to the Iggy Pop song Dum Dum Boys. Their second album, Only in Dreams, is one of their more well-known albums, with singles such as Coming Down and Bedroom Eyes. I first discovered them watching their debut TV performance on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon back in 2011. Their uniform classic style and the dreamy, catchy music is what gives this band a powerful presence and interesting, unique edge. The girls have just recently released a full-length album, Too True. They are currently touring right now in North America and Europe, but are unfortunately not stopping at Pittsburgh, at least not yet. Well, I hope all these female artists inspire all you girls out there, whether it be to pick up the guitar and mic, or just learn to stand up for yourself and be proud. That is all we have for this episode of Previews and Reviews. Hope to see you next time, and as always, thanks for watching.